How are you guys doing today?
We're good. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can, and again, can see your slides, so you guys can just take it away.
Okay. Oh, all right. Let me just, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to push something. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will be presenting on inclusive programming for adults with developmental disabilities. My name is Noelle Burch, and I will be presenting with my colleague Gina Worsham. We are both librarians for Contra Costa County Library System. We are located in Northern California in the Bay Area, just outside of San Francisco. We are both really passionate about creating a library environment that supports all abilities. And I just want to take a moment and thank Reaching Across Illinois Library System, and specifically Joseph, for including us today. We are really honored to be a part of this, and thank you for having us. So we'll get to our program now. Okay, so our presentation will be divided into two parts. Gina will be discussing Contra Costa County's inclusive plan. Over the course of 8 years, our library system's been taking steps to include everyone with all different abilities, and Gina will be discussing the beginning steps to breaking down barriers and building an environment for people with disabilities. And this will also include establishing an accessibility committee that me and Gina serve on. And then the second half, I will be getting back on again, and I will be discussing how to create programming for adults with developmental disabilities, or IDD. We refer to these programs as insider programs, and we will get to that in further detail. But you'll be hearing insiders term a lot. So let's get started. During the webinar, we have some exercises where you can share your thoughts, and then there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So I am going to be turning this over to Gina now. Thank you.
Thank you, Noelle. Again, my name is Gina Worsham, and I'm a librarian at Contra Costa County Library. Okay, so let's talk about Contra Costa County Library's inclusive plan. It's the combination of accessibility and inclusivity when creating new library programs. We also want to bring this idea to our current programming as well. Simply put, what can be done to make our new programs and existing programs welcoming to everyone of all abilities. So today we'll be sharing some examples of our inclusive programs, such as Insiders, as well as our summer reading program. Okay, so an inclusive library plan helps the library provide an environment where people of all abilities can fully participate in what the library has to offer. Our accessibility committee plays a key role in this process. We are the group that ensures our libraries are accessible by reviewing products and services. So I'll go over those a little bit more in detail in just a moment. We also meet with outside groups to discuss accessibility concerns, and we've provided training for other libraries, such as this one. So we believe that by improving access for people with disabilities, we will improve access for everyone. This webinar will help to demonstrate how we can break down those barriers to accessibility. So our philosophy and goals for inclusion. The image is next. That's great. Okay. So this image, I think, really does a great job of demonstrating accessibility. There's also a quote by Canadian Supreme Court Justice Rosalie Cyberman Abella, who said, "Sometimes equality means treating people the same despite their differences. Sometimes it means treating them as equal by accommodating their differences." Both of these together, the image and the quote, show how sometimes we need to treat people differently to give them the same access as others. It really does require us to think creatively sometimes. Okay, so what is inclusion? How important is the attitude of library staff? In addition to physical barriers to accessibility, we also see attitudinal barriers. Throughout the webinar, you will see ways we can break down those barriers. We believe that attitudes can be changed by encouraging people of all abilities to feel comfortable and confident using the library. Including programs for people of all abilities increases access to information and lifelong learning for everyone. We have seen in our libraries how much of a positive impact these steps have made, not only for our participants, but also with our staff. We also encourage our staff to use people-first language, as language greatly influences how we view the world and how we treat others. This is simply putting the person before their disability, not defining them by their disability. So some examples include, instead of saying the disabled man, you would say he has a physical disability, or referring to the little girl as the autistic girl, you would say she has autism. So we did include a handout about people first language, and that was pioneered by Kathy Snow. She also has a site, a website that explains a lot of her work, and that's also on the handout. Okay, so the Accessibility Committee. So we've talked about accessibility and inclusion in our libraries. Now, how do we go about doing this? What changes do we need to make? What products and services do we need? Who do we ask? As mentioned in our library's inclusive plan earlier, our library's Accessibility Committee plays an instrumental role in making our libraries accessible to everyone. Evaluating our library's products and services is an ongoing process the committee is tasked with. By products, I'm referring to anything that's not a service, such as assistive technology and the library's collection. And our services include things like planning inclusive public programs and outreach. Noelle will talk about those in depth later. We address accessibility-related questions or concerns from our staff and the public, and we maintain an accessibility subject guide for use by the public as well as our staff. So going back to our earlier questions, the committee really makes every effort to include persons with disabilities in the planning, implementing, and evaluating of our products and services. We've accomplished this by hosting focus groups, listening to the participants in our insiders groups, and even working with a consultant, an expert in providing services to people with disabilities. She turned out to be an invaluable asset in helping us feel comfortable that we were heading in the right direction. The committee has made sure our libraries not only meet ADA requirements, but are as accessible as possible to all. It's this inclusive foundation that has allowed our insiders programs to flourish, and we continue to make changes in that direction. Really, once you get started, the sky is the limit. Okay, so I want to remind you that we will have time for questions at the end, and I now turn you over to Noelle, our insiders expert.
Okay. All right, so as Gina just mentioned, our library system has developed programming geared towards adults with developmental disabilities. Our system, just repeating it, refers to these as insider programs, and those who attend are called insiders. I'll get started. So the meaning of insiders derives from the experience that most library users are already having when they're visiting our libraries. And the majority of people that come to the library are comfortable navigating through our library, approaching staff, using resources, and attending programs. But for some adults with developmental disabilities, basic library experiences can be intimidating. Reading maps to navigate through the library may be difficult. Even finding a place to sit, or a bathroom, or a water fountain. In addition, they may not know what a librarian is there for and what type of questions to ask. And that is where the Insiders program comes into effect. The Insiders program, it functions as a way to have adults with developmental disabilities have a comfortable, productive library experience that most of our general public is already having. There are approximately 7 to 8 million people living with an intellectual or developmental disability in the United States. This is a loving, flexible community that at times does go under the radar. I think libraries have a responsibility and a really great opportunity to support adults with developmental disabilities by creating specialized programming that will give them the opportunity to use the library as mostly the general public is already using it. And let's see. Okay, and I just, this is just a picture of my Insiders program. I thought I would just put a picture in. This is my original group. I started doing this in 2011, and I had 15 attendees, and now presently my group has grown to almost 60. So the statistics alone show that this is an in-demand program, and you get so much back just from doing it. So let's just step back for a moment. I have a poll. I want to gauge if you already have adults coming into your library from community-based programs on a daily basis.
Okay, and hopefully that popped up on everyone's screen, so we'll just give you a moment to respond to that. And just one more moment. And hopefully you can all see the poll results, but it looks like 72% of you said yes to that question and 28% said no.
All right, great. So it sounds like you already have people with developmental or intellectual disabilities already visiting your library, or at least the majority of you do. So that's great. We had a very similar situation where we already had adults visiting our library. So for those of you that don't have someone visiting or adults in community-based programs visiting your library yet, there are many adult day programs nationally, locally, that you can reach out to get started. For instance, ARC is a very popular national program that supports adults with developmental disabilities. And we work with ARC and a couple of local ones as well. So for those of you that already have adults visiting your library, just as simple as going over and introducing yourself to just break down that barrier and seeing if they want to set up some type of library tour. Or as I had mentioned, sorry, went out of place here, or you can just, to set this up, you can call a local or national, a local national community-based program that serves adults with developmental disabilities. So once you sort of have it started, whether it's a small group or a big group, you can get started. So the type of programs that we, or at least our goals for the type of program for Insiders, are programs that encourage adults with developmental disabilities to feel comfortable and confident using all resources in the library, and programs that provide a variety of opportunities for lifelong learning. Okay, so the types of programs that I would recommend that would encourage adults with developmental disabilities to feel comfortable and confident using all of our resources in the library, I would recommend as your first program, as I mentioned, is offering a behind-the-scenes library tour. This is a great just sort of starting point. There's no commitment either. You're just offering a tour. So I recommend bringing them into the library, showing them all of our resources, and then also giving them a behind-the-scenes look at our staff area. When I did our first tour, I showed them all different materials that we offered, and we talked about what librarians are here for. I discussed our technology, just how to get logged in, how to print out, how to sign on to a computer, and more importantly, I introduced the group to every staff member who was working that day. The next program I did, just following the library tour, whether it be the next month or the next week, depending on your availability, is a scavenger hunt. And I provided a handout if you guys wanted to use that. So I wanted, by doing the scavenger hunt, I wanted to increase their familiarity with our library, but also encourage talking with staff. So one of the more enjoyable moments of the scavenger hunt was asking for, was one of the sort of tasks was to ask a librarian to find a joke and tell them a joke. It was a really fun activity. I had sent out an email to staff prior, just telling them what was going to happen, and all of my staff were really excited. In fact, they printed out the jokes ahead of time and were ready when the insiders were coming around with their questions. Even after it, I heard a couple staff say that they were disappointed that they had to help another patron and not tell a joke. So after just a few programs over the course of a couple months, I already started noticing a change in their behavior upon arriving to our library. Prior to the tour or the scavenger hunt, the groups that I would normally see would just sort of come in and sit down and perhaps not even use library resources. And now when they started coming in, there was a purpose. They came through the door looking like they knew where they were going to go, whether it be a computer or just printing out things or just coming over to us and saying hello, slapping us high five. It's just made such a better environment for us. I have an insider who shortly after our first couple meetings started coming to the desk almost every other day when he would come in and ask for a picture of Katy Perry to be printed out. And I've been printing out Katy Perry pictures for him ever since. So, you know, it's just showing them that we're there and we're there to meet their needs. So I know with all of that being said, libraries can be extremely busy and finding time might be difficult. So you just do whatever you can do on your end, even if it at minimum is a place to provide them a place to eat and socialize. For example, after becoming familiar with a couple of the groups that started attending my programs, I realized that due to a budget decrease, they didn't have a physical building where they could eat lunch or do any other activities. So they had sort of an administration building that everybody would meet at in the morning, and they would get in their vans and go to libraries. And lunch was the extremely difficult part because a lot of them had special diets and they had bag lunches and they could only eat bag lunches outside. So real easy thing that I implemented was whenever on rainy days and the insiders came, we would have a place for them to eat lunch. So it could be something as simple as just providing a room for, you know, warmth and having lunch. And also, so we went over the behind-the-scenes library tour and the scavenger hunt and just going over general library technology and computer tutorials. We also, during those tours, are just letting them know that we have special library resources. So for all of our community, we provide free museum passes for for numerous local museums. And this was something that the groups that I started working with had no idea that we offered. And now it's turned into another place where they can print out tickets and have a day out outside of the library or outside of other things that they have planned for free. We also, as a result of having the Insiders program, we built a special collection that is books and DVDs on life skills, career development, and that was built for our adults with developmental disabilities, but it's a collection that can be used by anyone in the public. In 2013, the Accessibility Committee received a grant to purchase iPads. And so we purchased 10 iPads, and we downloaded a bunch of apps or purchased a bunch of apps to develop life skills. And the iPads, they are used by our insiders, but they're also available to the rest of our community. So this is just another example of when you create an inclusive environment, it benefits not only people with disabilities, but it does benefit everybody, because now everyone can enjoy these iPads that were created just by us trying to create a just more inclusive environment. And I can definitely go over what's in our special collections and the apps on our iPads. Either you can contact me afterwards, or I can also go over it at the end. All right. So move into another thing that we've done to sort of that's come out of our Insiders program is summer reading records. We thought it was a great opportunity to get our insiders involved with something that the general public was already doing, and that was adult summer reading. However, at the time when we started, I believe back in 2008, 2009, our summer reading records were only geared towards reading and writing a review. At least the adult ones were. Our children's ones were a little bit more forgiving, but the adult ones were pretty just geared towards you're going to read a book and you're going to write a review. So as a result, we as insider hosts or people that those of us who were doing programming for adults with developmental disabilities, we just started doing our own summer reading records and doing it at the same time. I created an attachment, it's in your handout, an example of the records that we created for our library insiders. So again, it's just trying to get them comfortable in the library. Visit the library, ask a librarian a question, listen to music or books, read or spend time with a book or magazine, watch a movie, etc. And this is just sort of a visual. I attached a more updated handout that you guys are more than welcome to use. But however, what happened was accessibility members started showing up to the adult summer reading committee. And in 2012, it was just like I said, or up until 2012, it was read a book and write a short review. And in 2013 and 2014, we got the committee to read a book or write a short review to enter the library's summer reading program. And we had, for other ways to participate, visit ccclib.org, which was our website. And then this year was sort of the big year where we got them to just review a book or activity to enter the library's prize drawing. So just that little change, just saying review a book or an activity, it changed everything. So this was the first year where I was able to hand out the summer reading records that that everybody else was already using. And what was great about this is my insiders got to participate in our inclusive record. But like I said, if that's some of the libraries are already doing inclusive summer reading records for adults. If that's not the case, then I'd say it's not. It's, you know, you can always just start off how we did. And what's great about the new adult summer reading record is it's a talking point. I did tell several people, and when I was handing them out, adults who weren't in the Insiders program, to review a book or activity, and they would sort of ask, oh, like an activity, and I would tell them, you can use one of our museum passes, and you can talk about, you can review that. And also, because we wrote review a book or activity, sorry, I'm backtracking, rather than write a review, my insiders drew on their record. So it was just a great change for everyone. And because of that change, we went from a very small percentage, probably around 100 people participating in our adult summer reading record, to definitely over double that at least, because we have several insiders programs going on in the county. Each have anywhere from 20 to 60 people. So we got a bunch more of adults participating too. And then I just thought I would mention volunteering. Volunteering benefits the library, and it also helps insiders develop career and life skills. You can do a group or individual volunteering program where everybody comes in and cleans books. It's a win-win for everyone. So that's sort of, that's concluding the using library resources part. And now we're going to go into developing life skills. So let me just get to where I need to be. Okay, so the other goal of our program is to provide a variety of opportunities for lifelong learning, and that includes safety, health, local environment, creativity and expression, music, career development, and current holidays or events. So we are on a budget as well, so most of our programs that we offer for adults with developmental disabilities are free, and we just get them from working with our partners in the community already. These partners include police and the fire department, our city parks and recreation, local rangers, nonprofit organizations, local businesses, and Friends and Library Foundation. And we'll go into how they play into this developing life skills. So safety and health, we've had fire safety. So we've had the fire department come in and talk about just fire safety in general. Specifically cooking came up, and how to, keep yourself from burning anything or things going on fire. And at that program, we were also able to purchase things to hold hot plates. Sorry, oven mitts. Sorry, I'm losing my ability to define words. And then also personal safety. We had the police department come in and just talk about personal safety. And this program is extremely important, especially for adults with developmental disabilities. It's something that I have yearly because adults with developmental disabilities are a very loving group of people, and they're trusting, and they trust strangers. And I know that there's been some problem with them giving people money that were just asking for it, that weren't their friends. There's also been some issues where people have given them the wrong change at cash registers intentionally because they didn't know how to count. So we just talked about methods to stop that type of behavior, and who are the safe people to talk to and to get help from. We have doctors from our local hospital visit. A lot of adults that I work with, they have some health issues with exercising. Some are diabetic, some have heart issues. I also know that some of them don't know how to identify when they're sick or not. So that's always a really helpful, have a doctor come in or a specialist come in. The American Heart Association is a great place to start as well. We have reading therapy dogs that come in, and the idea is we use them for children to come and read to therapy animals. But we brought them in and just sort of said, you can read to them, you can pet them, you can hang out with them, whatever you like. And some of them read, some of them pet to them, some of them talk to them. It's very flexible. We had guide dogs for the blind come in, and we had someone talk about what they do. And then we also have had local businesses come in, yoga instructors, nutritionists. So what's great about this group is they're really flexible and they love information. And whenever I have anyone from the community come and visit, they are always just so happy with the experience that they have, because this is an engaged, loving, and flexible group of individuals. And whenever I invite people to come who are meeting them for the first time, I always get some type of follow-up email saying, wow, thank you so much. I don't think you'll have any hard time getting any sort of community partners to come out. Again, if there's any questions about how to get that started, or me and Gina will be available at the end, or also through emails that we'll provide at the end for you. This is just another photo of my Library Insiders program. We did ice cream making and just a dream collage where we just cut out pictures at the start of the new year to talk about what we dreamed for that year, what we dreamed for, I think, in the next 10 years was another thing, and then what we dreamed for our lives. So really anything, very flexible. I always ask them to, did you like this presentation? Was this fun? What's great is they're very honest, and they'll tell you if it was, a bad one. And they'll say it in the nicest way, but they'll say, well, maybe don't do that next time. And that's great. And they say it in the nicest way. So, so with that, also we've done programs for the local environment. We've had park rangers come and just kind of, sometimes they'll bring reptiles, snakes, spiders. We have local wildlife rehabilitation organizations come. For instance, we had them come bring eagles that were injured. We just had gardening classes, composting, drought awareness. We have a little bit of a problem out here. And then the Lapidary Society. These are just to name who just came and showed them rocks. And again, all of these programs were enjoyed, and it's as many nonprofits that you can work with, local businesses. You can just keep introducing different things to do. Okay. So another thing that we focus on is creativity and expression. I try to do music and dance a couple times a year. I do monthly programs. I'm sorry if I didn't mention that earlier, but we do have librarians that are able to do weekly programs or bi-monthly. But I do monthly, so a couple times a year I try to do music and dance. We have local musicians that will come in sometimes for free or a very minimal price. If I don't have anything planned too much, we have had just spontaneous dance parties. This is a group that loves music, and they aren't afraid to dance and do something different or get everybody involved. We had in the photo, we had a drum program. It came with a whole bunch of drums, and it was incredible. We had maybe people that weren't wanting to drum dancing. They were putting their whole body into it, and it was just a great experience. We've also just had karaoke. So one of the librarians had a karaoke machine, and I was able to get that for the group. And then we had we created, actually, because of just how much they love to music and dance, we created a library inclusive music kit. So we purchased at the accessibility committee just last year a whole bunch of drums and all types of instruments to have in a kit that could travel around to different insider programs for them to just, we could just play music and pull out the all different instruments. And I can definitely go into that more later about what type of instruments they were. And the inclusive music kit as well, that's available to the public or for public programming. Anything that we create is open to everyone. And also these programs I do publicize publicly. I do say that they're geared towards adults with developmental disabilities, but anyone is welcome to attend if something catches their eye, because that's just sort of our goal, just making it inclusive. Crafting and art, again, collages, beading always goes over really well as long as you get sort of bigger beads and larger string. That's helpful because some of their motor skills are, they have some difficulty grasping some things. Even coloring, the new trend of adult coloring books, my insiders love that. I had us just have a whole hour of coloring, and I was nervous that they weren't going to like it, and they loved it, and I sent them home with a whole bunch of free things to go color later on. Watercoloring, we worked with our Parks and Recreation about watercolors, and they came in and they did some watercoloring. And let's see. Okay, and we've done current event and holidays. As you can see, I just sort of, a lot of this stuff I just get feedback from them and just decide what we're going to do. Last year we did for Veterans Day, we talked about veterans and what all different types of military and what they do and what types of wars that we've had. And at the end of the program, I had them, I said, if you'd like to write a thank you card to a veteran, I'll make sure I deliver them to veterans. So we wrote a bunch of thank you cards, just, thank you for your service. They were really, what's so beautiful about the cards is they were so personalized. They took the things that we just learned and they talked about war, and they talked about how they're lucky that they don't have to go to war, and it was just a great activity. So locally we have a National Guard that's actually just right in our city. So I reached out to them and I asked them, well, I have all these Veterans Day thank you cards, and if I gave them to you, would you be able to deliver them to some veterans? And they said, oh, absolutely. And so I went and I dropped off the cards, and they invited us to actually go to the National Guard and look at everything that they have, their big trucks and tanks. And that turned into a really great experience where it showed them, you reach out to some people and look at what happens. When we went to the National Guard, we had about our big group, about 60, and the sergeant that we worked with, he was wonderful. And a great moment that happened was is they showed us all of their tanks, and they showed us they told us what they do. You know, if there's a hurricane or an earthquake, we're there to help. And then they said, well, does anyone have any questions? And one of my insiders said, well, if there was a zombie apocalypse, which tank would you pick? And without even skipping a beat, the sergeant just said, that one right there, because, you know, we can drive through, unfortunately, people. And, you know, it's very high up, but it was just such one of those moments where it was just a great moment where the insiders were enjoying themselves, but also the National Guard and our local community was enjoying them as well. Last year I did a Martin Luther King Jr. Day program. I was just going to talk about civil rights. I showed them the I Have a Dream speech, and then I gave them a piece of paper that just said, what is your dream? And I told them that they could draw anything. And that's all I was really expecting from the day. And instead we got into a huge discussion more so about civil rights, current civil rights issues, and encouragement of the staff that sometimes attends the programs with them. We talked about civil rights for people with disabilities, and how it used to be versus how it is now. And again, it was one of those sort of moments where you realize just what a special group they were, and then when they sort of gave back their I Have a Dream, it was really incredible. The things that they wrote, equality, and some wrote, I'm just so glad that I have my rights, and I hope everybody has their rights. So it's just such a special group of people. Valentine's Day, we just made a bunch of Valentines, and it was great because they were making Valentines for each other, for staff. It just turned into a really just heartwarming experience. And holiday season is just a great time to have them make gifts or ornaments or something to give to the people that they love, because a lot of them are on fixed incomes. So when our foundation or our friends can support some type of larger craft, this is a great time to do it. So sort of I'm going back a bit now, and I'm just asking for your input because I know that we're in Northern California, and things are maybe a little different here. And I thought it might be a nice opportunity for all of us to do a group brainstorm about any local, state, or national organizations that has the potential to be a presenter at your library. So if you want to write in, or you have some ideas, or just even the stuff that I discussed, please feel free to discuss.
Yeah, so everybody just use the questions pane on your control panel. We'll just take a minute for this little brainstorming. Again, any local, state, national organizations you think that might be out there who could potentially a presenter, a collaborator for you. So just take a moment, and then I will read off some of the responses we've gotten, and then Noelle and Gina can chime in if they wish. One moment.
Great. Can I chime in? Everything looks great.
Okay, so yeah, I'm seeing independent living centers, business owners, local government, League of Women Voters, specific disability groups like cerebral palsy groups, etc. Maybe city parks and rec or county parks and rec, police department, fire department, Yeah, local banks, restaurants, animal shelter, healthcare clinics. How do those sound to you guys?
That sounds awesome. It sounds like half the stuff that you guys just named, I just started writing down. The local banks, I never thought to do the local bank, especially with how we brought up how there's some issues with them learning how to with money. So that was really just off the top of my head. What a great one. And a lot of local businesses or even the bigger businesses are looking always for a way to give back to the community. So whether you approach one of the bigger banks or the brick and mortar, that's a great one. And then I heard a lot of just local businesses and that can really can you send out a list of that? Yeah, sure. So that's some really great stuff. And sorry, I'm sorry. I'm watching at the same time the university programs. That's a great idea. I never thought to work with the university. It makes complete sense, especially with Berkeley right down the block. Wow, that's awesome. Is there anything else I was missing, Joseph?
No, I think you got, there are a couple that mention, specific organizations in their community, a day program for adults with disabilities. So it seems there are some folks out there in a library that are maybe aware of a program that already exists in their community. But I think that you hit on the big ones. And there was a question, if we could share this list. So I'm happy to take these and put them in an email and can send those out to you guys so that you have them.
All right, great. Yeah, I would love those too. That's great. And then also I saw the Women League of Voters. That's another great one. So as you can see, if you're able to have a space and you won't have to be the only person presenting. The community really does step up to help. And maybe the first year you're sort of starting it out and getting those contacts, or maybe even just as a librarian already, from being just within the community. But once you get the wheel turning, it's a very easy program that just sort of takes its own, just sort of goes on its own. So that was great. Move along here. I had mentioned that a little further back, I didn't go too much into detail, but when you really do get something started and you're maybe able to commit to a monthly, weekly, or twice a month program, it's helpful to set a schedule. Most of the programs that a lot of the adults who come to these programs, they are from community-based programs, so from ARC, for example. But also, we do have individuals that come in that do just come in, not that often, but we do have individuals that come in here and there. Most of the time, the schedule is early afternoon. That tends to be the most popular time for all of our insiders programs. So I'd say around 11 a.m. to 1. And I have a longer one from 11 to 1. The first hour we eat lunch and we just catch up and socialize. So most of the programs meet on a monthly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly basis. And as I mentioned, our programs are publicly promoted. So they are geared towards adults with developmental disabilities, with the goal of just having them enjoy the library to the fullest. But a lot of these programs are suitable to anyone that's using the library. And there have been times where we've done a little bit of collaboration or we've brought in different ages. But for the most part, it tends to just be attended by library insiders. Okay, so staff cooperation, I have to say that at least at my community library, it was not at all hard to get staff cooperation. I think sometimes we lack the ability or to get started or to start that introduction or start looking at the library as an inclusive environment. But once I had my insiders coming in and talking with staff, it turned our entire library environment into a much more friendlier, happier place. I've never had I've never had a negative insider experience or discussion. They are the kindest people and the most loving people that I've ever met. And most part, they'll wait online just to come over to you and give you a high five. So yeah, once everybody was on board and they knew what was happening, it wasn't difficult to get staff cooperation. I would say maybe the most difficult part was getting the summer reading records changed and making them more accessible. I think with any sort of big change like that, there are some people that are nervous that we're taking literacy out of libraries, but really we're not taking it out of libraries, we're just offering other options to include more people. But it does sometimes with making the bigger changes, it takes a little bit of time, but as far as just creating your own program and having people with developmental disabilities coming in on a daily basis, it's a wonderful thing for the community, for staff. It makes a great environment. So I heard this term the other day, nothing about us without us, and with that being said, all of the programs that I do and that are done throughout the county would not be possible if we didn't have constant feedback from the people that attend our programs. So like I said, they'll tell you maybe if something is childish and you missed the mark. Sometimes if I've done a program where I think it was when I had the spiders and the snakes come in, where about 50% of my group just walked out, and that's fine. They weren't mad at me. It's just that was not something that they were interested in. So there will be times where things work really well, and there'll be times where things don't work well. They're very flexible too, and they'll give you very nice, positive feedback. For instance, I thought, oh, today I just got to do a passive program. I have nothing planned. Let me put Guardians of the Galaxy in on DVD. And of course, I put the DVD in, and we could hear the sound, but we couldn't see the screen. And for a good 15, 20 minutes, I desperately tried to get the screen to pop up, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to start losing everybody. And instead, I noticed that everybody was staying, and that surprised me. And I said, all right, guys, I'm going to stop the movie, and I'll find something else for us to do. And they actually said, no, please don't stop the movie. We have already been listening to it this whole time, and we just like to listen to it. The music is great. So then you'll have stuff like that come out, and you'll be like, wow, okay, I did it right. I did something right there. And also, when I think it was a year or two ago, we also try to keep our insiders always in discussion with us, and we advocate for adults with developmental disabilities, but they want to advocate for themselves as well, and we try to give them opportunities. And I believe about, I want to say a year or two ago, we took our insiders to a panel about programming for adults with developmental disabilities in San Francisco. So the San Francisco Public Library hosted us. And it was so refreshing to talk about what we were doing as librarians, but also to hear directly from the people that were attending these programs. And it was great because there was a moment where you know, a well-meaning person asked a question and sort of went along the lines of saying, well, you know, these people, and it sort of was like they were saying, well, you know, these people, do they know this? And one of my insiders just said, I'm right here. So, you know, it was a great moment. And with that being said, I also don't know if I touched upon where the Insiders name came from. So when we started the Insiders program back in, I want to say like 2008, they were originally meeting. It was started with a very small group who were coming into the library on a weekly basis every Wednesday, and who would just sort of come in and sit at the tables and not do anything. And unfortunately, there were some staff members that were with them who were just playing on their phones. And the librarian at the time, named Kathy Middleton, who's now working in Sacramento, was just had enough of it. So she just went and she talked to, you know, the people that were sitting at the tables and said, hey, I'd like to show you guys the library. I want to show you some stuff that you need to do, that you can do, or, you know, things that you might be interested in. And then it developed into them meeting every Wednesday, and it was called the Wednesday Club. And then what happened was they couldn't meet on Wednesdays anymore. So then the name change came into effect, and it was an Insider. And this gets me every time, so my voice might get a little weepy here. It was an Insider that said, well, you know, I felt like an insider, and now I feel like, I felt like an outsider, and now I feel like an insider. So I think it should be called the Insiders Program. So that was, again, another situation where they came up with it on their own. So it's always, you know, always ask them what they're thinking, what they want. Our iPads were purchased with discussion from them and what apps to put on them, because they said they wanted help with career development. And so we have apps that help them sort of, how do you talk to a supervisor, how do you talk to a coworker, you know, what's appropriate behavior, but it's geared towards adults, so it's nice because it's not like it's, you know, talking to someone or a teen or a child. And then also we had apps downloaded to help you with money and how to count things and what type of grocery list you should make. So just stuff like that. That was all from them. So our program is constantly just changing and just always getting feedback from our group. So just the impact is, as I've said, the people that are attending our programs, they feel comfortable asking questions from the library staff, and now are attending a variety of library programs, which goes beyond now the Insiders program. So they're attending programs that we've just been having for the general public, and they feel now comfortable to attend them on their own. And as I said, they're very comfortable now with library staff. When they come into the library, we know they're there. It's great, and they, you know, they talk to all of us. It's just a better environment. Library Insiders, like I said, they're gaining public library skills, and now they're equipped to navigate most public libraries. So what you've now done for this population is most libraries are the same. They have the same system. We have the Dewey Decimal System. We have how do you find authors. This is the children's area. This is the library's desk, the librarian's desk. So if they ever move, or if they ever find themselves in a situation where they might be lost or they need help or anything, they know a library is a place that will welcome them and be there. And of course, staff appreciates the kindness and positive interactions from our library insiders. It is so, I always just feel so great, and I know all the other staff feel just great when we see them in the building. This part of our job, we do a lot of things, but this, I can say, as my job is the most fulfilling thing I do in my job, and it's probably one of the most fulfilling things I'm doing in my life. So with that being said, we're a little shorter than I thought we would be, but we can take questions about inclusive programming, and if I don't have the answer, you can email me, and anything that we've used here today, handouts, you are more than welcome to use. The name Insiders, you are more than welcome to take that name. We would be thrilled if you did, but you can come up with your own name. All right, so I will open this to questions.
Okay, thank you guys. And as you all think of any questions or comments that you want to put into the questions, we recorded today's webinar. It will be up in the matter of, a day or two on our Rails Continuing Education Archives page. If any of you had trouble accessing the handouts that Noelle and Gina referred to, those will be in the same place for you to access. And again, I'm happy when I can email you all when this is ready, and I'll also include in that email a list of those potential presenters, partners in your community that could be a resource, so you all know what everybody came up with. So, Noelle, I don't know if you saw the question earlier, but I wonder if you could say a few words about the types of apps or any names of apps that you actually put on those iPads that you were talking about.
So we went through the company. It's called the Attainment Company for our iPad apps. I don't have the specific names right off the top of my head of each app, but we got them primarily for adults from the Attainment Company, and those were the ones that sort of went over career skills, like how to talk to your boss, and if you just were to Google Attainment Company, you would see them come up. It also had the money skills program, and what's great is I had a hard time at first finding apps that taught you life skills but didn't talk to you like you were, a teen or a child. What's great about the Attainment Company, and when we found them, we saw that their apps are geared mostly towards adults or teens. But primarily it seemed like it was towards adults with adult issues. So yeah, we had career skills, money skills, reading skills, but then we also put on the app a bunch of art, just sort of free art apps where they could draw. There was one where you could write your own story and draw, and I had an insider write a really interesting story, and I had to delete it. It was definitely more along the lines of 50 Shades of Grey, but it's a place to have expression, and I was kind of sad that I had to just delete it out of the iPad. I would have liked to have figured out a way to actually print it out, but it's a great group, and it's a group that wants to learn but also wants to express themselves through art, through writing, through learning new things.
And a follow-up, how do the iPads, the apps on the iPads, do they get used during specific program times, or can they be checked out while they're in the library? How does that work?
So right now, we just have them that they're used during programs. We have 10 of them, and they can be booked by any community library during a program. We don't have the ability yet to lend them out. I would love if we could, specifically to some of our insiders. But what's great is the iPads are a nice passive program, so you can have sort of smaller groups meet during the week or sort of outside of the monthly program, and they can come in and they could just work on career skills or money skills in a smaller group. That's sort of something that came about because we only had 10 and my group was growing to 60, but there are insider programs where they're a little smaller and they have, like, you know, monthly programs where they all get to come in and use the iPad.
Okay, some other questions. Could you talk about how you publicize for insiders, and do you limit programs to just the members of the insiders group? And this person also says it's an amazing name, by the way, so just so you know.
Thank you.
Yes.
We do not limit it just to insiders. It said I put it out to the public. It's on our public calendar, and I do write though that it is geared towards adults with developmental disabilities. I did that just because I feel like the libraries should be inclusive, and I didn't want to go sort of the exclusive route. And if someone wanted to come and maybe they, you know, didn't have a developmental disability, well, you know what, that'd probably be the most favorite program they ever attended. I haven't had that necessarily happen, but again, I wanted to make it inclusive as possible by putting it all over the calendar, and by sort of putting it out publicly on our flyers and our calendar. It does pull in groups that maybe have just been completely gone under the radar. What was nice is it got out to one of the high schools nearby who had, they were 12th graders who were so seniors, and they had some special needs. And they came just for one program, and their one goal was just to meet sort of adult insiders who were in community-based programs, because they were going to be going to those programs in the next year. And it turned into a great sort of socializing, like, you know, maybe I'll see you in a couple months, you know. So by putting it out there, you do sometimes pull in things that you didn't even see coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend putting it out there to the public, but just saying that you're gearing it towards adults with developmental disabilities.
Okay. Another question here. The organizations that do provide programs, do you find you need to help educate presenters on how to best present for the insiders audience so that it's, you know, not too long, or to make sure it's interactive enough, or either that sort of thing? Is there anything you do for your presenters in that regard?
You know, that sounds like a good idea, but I've never really had to. A lot of times, all I will is just say, you know, these are adults with developmental disabilities, and they're really friendly and flexible. And oh, hold on, Gina knows something. Gina's coming on for a second.
Oh, okay.
There was one time where I was helping with some insiders a few years back, and it was actually Kathy Middleton had requested a program with the dogs from one of our rescue organizations. So I had contacted them. I was familiar with them. I had worked with them, and had asked for a dog to be brought to visit our insiders group. And I had explained to them who the participants were, and they did request a smaller, friendlier looking dog. A couple of them were fearful of dogs. So after this and going back and forth, they ended up coming in with a Doberman. Now, you know, my first thought was, oh my goodness, a Doberman. It ended up going very well, and everyone was so interested. We had a small group, about 10 insiders, and one of them, who was very scared of dogs, stayed in the back. And at the very end, when no one was looking, everyone was kind of thanking the presenter, he went over and pet the dog. So it was kind of a big moment. You don't always know how, your participants or insiders are going to react. And you don't always have to provide a sensitivity training or prepare the presenter, other than just letting them know this is, these are adults with IDD, and there may be this accommodation we may need to make, but for the most part, everyone just comes right in. They can kind of read the response from the participants, and most of the people presenting have presented other programs to other groups. So, they're familiar. Maybe they've presented to kids or professionals, or, they're used to being able to read the audience and kind of make changes if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm turning it back over to you.
Yeah, I also just thought when we did have an African dance sort of program where a woman came in and did like a whole sort of African themed dancing with certain music, and the only thing that I did ahead of time was I did say, not everybody can move around. So, some people are in wheelchairs, some people are in rollators, and so on. So she was really just sort of, once I told her that, sort of like the physical, sometimes there's some physical limitations. She just brought in like scarves that they could just sort of like, just go back and forth with their hand and enjoy it. So sometimes that's a good idea, to just say there are some physical limitations. I hired a woman to do some Valentine's Day crafts, and I told her that a lot of, like, some of them have difficulty cutting. So if we can cut things a whole ahead of time, that would be great. So it's just, and you won't know these things until, like, you probably do something and you fail. Like, you're like, oops, that didn't work. So you just sort of learn as you go, and you have a great crowd to do that with.
Okay, great. We'll try to just get through 2 or 3 more questions here. Has your library objected at all to offering programs like these to people who are part of a membership organization in the community? So the person asking this question brings up that her city has a friendship group for teens and adults with developmental disorders. And they do have program fees and membership, and there's some resistance in the library to offering programs for them because their members pay a fee to participate. Is that anything that you guys have encountered?
No, not that we've encountered. I guess I'm trying to see. So I guess it's like they're paying a group to then come to the library for a free program, like that type of.
I would assume that, yeah, that's how it's meant, that they're, paying the group and then coming to the library for this, free
So
program, presumably.
Yeah, I think some of our nonprofits might even have some type of fee-based. I'm not that familiar with the financial of it, but our thing is we don't really regulate it. Ours is more so this is a free program at the library. We put it out there publicly, so if there was, say, a family that were paying to be a part of like this friendship group, they wouldn't necessarily have to go through the friendship group to attend. So
right.
Yeah, I haven't really ran into anything like that, so I don't really have. I haven't been aware of it though, so definitely.
Okay.
I'll be a little more aware though.
How do you go about finding organizations? Do you have any strategy to be able to provide those programs, and particularly those who are going to charge a fee? Do you have any method or strategies for finding those people or organizations that'll do these programs for you?
So the attending or people that are going to present?
I think the ones who are actually going to present be the ones that are providing the program.
A lot of like we've been doing this for a while, so I think a lot of it's come through recommendations, or it's already been a children's or a teen or adult program. But a lot of the nonprofits, they don't charge, especially like the major organizations. They're usually required sometimes to actually do some type of community service, and they love this one. But there has been times where we've had local businesses who I think they sort of knew that we can do this program, but it might not necessarily promote us. So in that case, I'm thinking of the one off the top of my head. I think it was a dance program, and so you can kind of put the insiders in. So you could say, okay, well, we'll let you do a children's program where you can say, like, to all the parents, come, come to our school and learn how to do Zumba. And then but if we allow you to do the children's program, then we want you to come in and do the insiders program. So you can kind of negotiate with local businesses, saying, well, we can put you in front of some parents that might come to the Zumba class, but we also want you to do a program for our adults with developmental disabilities. And it's not that adults with developmental disabilities won't become consumers, but a lot of them are on fixed income and their transportation is difficult. So that might be like, I'm just trying to think like one sort of thing where the local business wants to promote itself to a certain extent. So then we can kind of group the local business in with like another adult program or a children's program. Does that make sense?
Okay. I think we'll get one more question here. What types of, so going to your special collection, are there certain kits that you make available? And, if there are, could you talk about sort of what is contained in those kits in your special collection?
Sure. So we have a couple different collections. So the iPad is, I guess we would consider a special collection that we move around. We talked about that. And then the other collection is, again, we bought it from the Attainment Company. I swear I don't work for them. But they had a whole bunch of books on career development, on your body, on body changes, on hygiene, how to take care of yourself, on health, and those books. And we also had some DVDs as well. And I think that those were on career development again. And those are just all reference material. We have one that you can order for that will travel around, and then we have one that actually stays at one of our libraries for the insiders that come in, because they come in every day and stay most of the day. So they're using these items constantly, whereas at our other libraries we don't have as that much. So I can definitely, anyone that's interested in that, in the actual list, I have the list. I should have it with me, but I don't. I can either send it to Joe, or you can just email me directly, whatever, at the end of the webinar, whatever works best.
Okay, and yeah, we did have at least one more question about the special collection and a list. So Noelle, if you have one you can share with me, I'm happy to include that with the other handouts so folks can see that. It seems like there's some interest. Okay, well, we are, yeah, very good. So we're almost at 3 o'clock here, and so I think we will conclude, but I want to, first of all, thank all of you for participating and asking a lot of questions and engaging with our presenters. And Noelle and Gina, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to present on this topic that, we hope that while it won't give everyone, we hope that it will allow people who participated to go back to their libraries and engage with their staff and find ways to serve this community. And if nothing else, it seems like a lot of folks are interested in this insider's name, so I won't be surprised if I hear about some insider groups springing up here in Illinois. So that's great, and thank you for your willingness to share all of this with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
And our emails are at the end here, so just
Yep, I will leave that up on the screen for a moment, and so folks can get that. And with that, we will say have a good day, everybody.
bye. Thank you.
Bye now.